Yes, what's good? This is Patrick Danko from Next Up in the Spotlight. I have a special guest with me, Celeste Frenette. Celeste, how you doing today?
Hi, great, thanks. So good to be
Good,
here.
good, good. You look great. I'm glad that you're here today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good, good, good. So, Celeste, how's your day been, man? How you doing? How's life?
Life is good, a
Like,
lot of transition going on in general, but I'm feeling really grounded, really connected to my purpose, my alignment, stuff like that. I feel like maybe there was a bit of time that was out of sync and now I'm feeling back in sync, so that's nice.
awesome, awesome. Well, I'm glad that you were here, introducing everybody. You know, it's Next Up in the Spotlight with Patrick Danko and Celeste, where we talk about mindset growth, where you are in life, and try to leave little life hacks so everyone can take something and pull away, and hopefully it resonates. We have a special guest with Celeste here today to talk about a lot of things. You are author, you are a speaker, you are motivational, you are a business person, you are a mentor, you are it all. So this is valuable, and I really appreciate you being here today. So thank you for joining us today on Next Up in the Spotlight. Celeste, to get right into it, so you talked about the year, and you said that it's been good, but how have you been navigating this whole last year and a half or so of this pandemic? How have you been staying positive?
Oh, focusing on my why, learning what to let go of,
Yeah.
learning that sometimes plans change and I needed to prioritize my children more, my
Yeah.
business a little bit less.
Okay.
I was blessed to be able to do that.
I like that.
And yeah, so I just went with the flow there and gave myself a lot of extra grace
Okay.
where I felt like maybe I had a certain vision or, I'm such a go-getter in my business and I always am ambitious and I have certain things that I'm going for and
Yeah.
programs that I create and things like that. And so I had to give myself permission to be a little bit lighter on that side and a little bit more on the nourishing my family and nourishing myself through all of this.
Awesome. And you mentioned your business a few times. You mentioned family, but maybe for those that are unaware, do you want to maybe introduce yourself and what it is that you do with respect to your business?
Sure, yeah. So I originally was a nurse and then I became a naturopathic doctor and I worked with so many people and found that at the core of it all, people tended to get healthier and to heal things that had been with them for a long time when they became really aligned with their own soul and started listening to those whispers inside of them. So that's the piece of work that I loved doing most when I was a naturopath. I would sit there with people and I would recommend supplements and prescriptions and herbs and all the things that I love, nutrition. And at the end of the day, it felt like it was so, what do you feel like your purpose is? What are you really passionate about? What lights you up? What's
Mhm.
kind of aching inside of your heart? Where in your life are you feeling out of alignment? It was those pieces that seemed to do the big healing for people.
Okay.
When those pieces were in line, things that hadn't shifted for years began to shift. And so that
Mhm.
became my passion. I started to, over time, focus exclusively on that, working with people more and more um, spiritually, emotionally, that type of way.
Okay.
And then transitioned into exclusively coaching and mentorship in 2014,
Okay.
2015.
Okay.
And that's when I let go of my naturopathic practice and started a business called Radical Nourishment, which for me, as you know, at the time was all about reprioritizing my soul and really filling myself and nourishing myself so that I could overflow and pour into the world my passion, my um, what was lighting me up and what I felt like was really connected to my purpose on earth.
Okay.
And so I've been doing that for, I guess, 6 years now
Oh wow.
exclusively
Okay.
and built it online, my business as a new entity. Because before that, I had a wellness center and
Right.
I was in person with people and then transitioned. So, certainly really grateful during these times that I already had an existing business online
Absolutely.
and I didn't have to start from scratch as I know so many people did.
Mm. No, thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to talk to you. I mean, you mentioned a few things in there, and congratulations, by the way, on the work you do. You are phenomenal. I've done some work with you, and I appreciate you as a person. You're super dope. But you mentioned something that I thought was really powerful. Few things. So, first thing is you talked about how you've transitioned, right? You transitioned from having like maybe a storefront and moving your business to online. And I feel like this is such a transitionary period for people where they're trying to figure out how to create a blueprint to figure things out, how to find out their why, how to make more money, how to make income if they've lost their jobs. And, maybe you could talk about, like, because I always wonder, people come to me and they ask, like, or they'll mention that they're having difficulties trying to pivot and navigate and just kind of reinvent themselves and transition. And I was curious, like, the process for you, was that a challenging process? Like, any advice that you can give when you move from a face to face to something that's predominantly remote and online?
Yeah. First was giving myself permission to imagine something different than I had previously imagined. So,
Okay.
if you imagine your dream business, what would you be doing? What would the days look like? What would you be teaching, facilitating, learning? How would you be interacting with people? And just give yourself permission to imagine you could do it any way, and see what that looks like first. So for me, it looked like reimagining what business could look like and imagining
Mm.
I had the dream business and really getting clear on what that looked like and how it felt. And then I gave myself permission to take time to transition rather than just saying, okay, I'm quitting this job and I'm just leaping, which
Right.
is not, it's not wrong to leap. People
Right.
leap as well. And it's just about being in integrity with yourself and knowing what is best for me. So for me, I didn't want I didn't want to take the leap until I felt the stability with my income. So what I did is I did the naturopathic and the coaching simultaneously for a little while to see, okay, can I earn as much money as I am as a naturopath doing this, and feel certain that I'm going to be supported financially as I move forward. And I gave myself it was 4 months that I
Right.
did that until I saw, okay, yes, I am. I'm earning just as much and I'm earning even more. And so then I felt really supported in
Right.
taking that next step and letting go. I let go of my license, which was a big deal.
It's a
And
huge deal, by the
yeah,
way,
yeah,
right? Like, people plan and work and strategize to go into naturopathic, and you're like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna go find something else. So, I mean, kudos to making that leap, but kind of like you said, like, the fear component sometimes stops people. So, like, you want to imagine best case, but then it's also baked in there is fear and doubt, and that sometimes keeps you small. Like, any advice when we're chasing our dreams, but we are also in fear, and that's holding us back? Any advice as to how one can approach that?
yes. Number one is to trust that the vision and the dreams that you have are there purposefully. Like they are wisdom. The dreams themselves are wisdom. The dreams themselves are guidance for you so that you can know, first of all, that what you're imagining is possible for you,
Right.
because sometimes it can feel like a stretch or it feels really different from
Mm.
how we've done things before. And if we don't
Right.
know anybody, especially in our personal lives, who've done it, which I didn't at the time, then it can feel like, oh, what am I doing? Am I
Right.
crazy? And you can have other people who are influencing you or sort of planting seeds in the back of your head that are saying, are you crazy? Like, why would you give that up? I don't know if that's the right decision for you. What about this? What about that?
Uh,
You can start to doubt yourself. So my other advice
and
would,
it's coming from so many different places, right?
yes, yes. So my other recommendation would be to really be protect your dreams in terms of sharing them with people who can really hold the space with you and who can
Mhm.
envision and believe them for you. Good if they're in that vicinity, in the arena, as it said, and sort of working towards things that are maybe bigger, a little bit different, a little bit more in line energetically with what your sorts of dreams are, so that you can feel like you're not alone through it. And you can feel
Okay.
like, you can tell, for example, your best friend it, and they're not going to say, you're crazy. They're going to say, I believe in you. We can do this. Like, let's figure it out. What's
Right.
your next step? And check in with you and encourage you as you go along. I think that's really important.
I love that. And so, is part of creating that space for that dream, or that, I can't remember what word you used, to come in? Is it also like you have to create the right space? Like, you have to maybe let go of some friends and connect with other friends, or, like, people that will lift you up as opposed to bringing you down? Because sometimes I feel like when you're surrounded by people who also can't see their own vision, sometimes they unintentionally are, like, kind of restricting you or limiting you from seeing your vision, because they can't even see past this small box or bubble that they're in. So is it about kind of reevaluating who you associate with, your space, your ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, the Jim Rohn quote that says you are the sum of the five people you spend the most time with. I think that
Yes.
that's really important when you're looking to shift and change and transform yourself and build something different. You think, is anybody around me chasing after their goals? It doesn't have to be the same goal. It's just that are they minded in the same way in terms of
Okay.
going after their dreams and not being influenced by negative talk and stuff like that. So for me, it became a matter of discerning who can I trust
Mm.
with these particular things. And yes, I might have these other relationships, and maybe I need to step away from those relationships, or maybe not. Maybe I just don't bring those specific things to that relationship, and this
Ah,
relationship is for something else.
got you.
And so discerning that, like, how is this relationship adding to my life? What am I adding to this relationship? And what do I bring here?
Okay. No, I like that. And when it comes to, there's so many artists and people and entrepreneurs, I don't want to even limit to artists that, when it comes to manifesting their work or even money related to it, oftentimes they have some challenges. I know that you, like you just mentioned, you were able to switch careers, and then, you did it at a point where you said, hey, what I'm choosing to do, this new career path is actually making me the same or more money than my previous, right? Like, how, let me see if I can ask the question correctly, but like, how do you create space for that, the finances to be aligned correctly, right? Like, people have these crazy fears. I know I do sometimes when with money, and sometimes I focus on the money, and when I feel like I should be focused on the feeling that I'm trying to chase, but I'm focusing on the money, and I get disconnected from the overarching goal. If that makes sense, am I asking the question correctly? Do I need to re-ask it?
I think I understand. Like, the money can be a big obstacle for people, right? And it can be, you understand that maybe something that you really want to create or call into your life seems so far away, and you can look at that financial goal or look at the income, for example, that you want to
Right.
be earning through what it is that you're doing, and it can feel daunting and it can feel far away,
Right.
and it can be a big reason why people, I think it's a major reason why people don't ever go after certain dreams, because they think with their mind, that's not realistic, that's not practical, I've never done that before, and they start to get into this downward spiral that moves them away from the feelings that they want to be in more of the time. So for me, what helped me with some of the financial pieces was having a really solid daily practice that I did that helped me to align with me, and being fiercely consistent with that every single day changed my life. So I think that that's a big part of it, being
When you say
having,
daily practice, can you shed some light a little bit on, like, what do you mean by daily practice? Like
yeah.
routine, strategy, mindfulness? Like, what do you mean exactly?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's different for everybody, but what worked for me is this. I came up with some sacred practices and rituals, sort of, that felt really good to me, that felt like they were um, what I needed to tend to my vibration, to tend to my energy, so
Mm.
that I could hold the vision and hold the dreams that I had and hold the financial goals that I had. I still had doubt every step of the way. So I don't think doubt is an obstacle. I think that
Okay.
our mission and our passion is much, even if we have doubt, I don't think it matters.
Right.
I think it's natural and human, especially if we're going after something we haven't personally experienced before. But I think it's showing up for ourselves every single day and what that looks like. So for me, it looked like I would wait. I woke up at a specific time every day, and I just did that really, really consistently. For me, I started my day with just a tea, a little bit of sacred breathing time. I read a book. I just relaxed for a little while first and had that quiet time. And then I sat down and I did what I called my new beliefs. I read my new beliefs. So they're like affirmations.
Mhm.
And I wrote them down, and I had 8 pages of them. So it was quite lengthy. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes to read them aloud every day.
Okay.
And it was affirmations that were in the positive, as if they had already happened, and that really focused
Mm.
intensely on the feeling. So I'm so happy and grateful that every single time a new client signs up with me, they are happy to pay in full. People are emailing me, messaging me to tell me how I've changed their life. And I'm so grateful that to have that impact in the world every day. So I would really get into whatever it was that I wanted to create more of, even if it wasn't true yet. I would read it as if it was true and just allow myself to get into that state. of like imagining how it feels when all of this is true. And some of the things were far-fetched. Like 30K months are normal for me in my business. I'm so happy and grateful to receive and to give abundantly without worry. At the time when I first started this practice, there was one specific goal. I had to take my grandmother on a vacation. And I remember saying, I am so happy and grateful to be standing on the beach with my grandmother and holding her hand, and to be creating memories that last a lifetime. So it was like really focusing on the details of what it was that I was creating, and just giving gratitude for them before they've even happened.
Okay.
So
I like that.
yeah, it was really uplifting to me. And sometimes I would think 30K months, like as if Celeste, that's really going to happen. Like that was such a stretch goal for me.
So
And
how do you, and sorry, and I don't mean to cut you off, and it's going to go back, it's hopefully it's in line with what you're saying, but, you know, maybe you can debunk some myths, but, you know, oftentimes when it comes to manifestation or pulling in what you want, I hear people say, you know, I need to think positive and be in this space of gratitude and positive feelings, because if I'm not and I'm doubting, then maybe it's causing some, you know, misalignment, right? It's the lines are getting crossed if I feel doubtful or the energy is not as positive. But what you said kind of debunks that myth, right? Like you're allowed to have some doubt and you can still call in what you want, so to speak. Is that right?
100%. And I don't believe doubts are negative. I believe doubts are just a normal part of our human experience, and is natural to doubt anything that we haven't personally experienced.
Okay.
And so if we just embrace that about ourselves and accept that about ourselves and know that it doesn't change what's possible for us, that it's okay. I think it's only when doubt is met with inaction that we sabotage ourselves.
Oh, I got you. Doubt is met with inaction. We sabotage ourselves. Fantastic. So if you could leave people with some tips in terms of how they can start creating this mindfulness, and how like a lot of people want to shift. And if you were to give them some tips, like even this daily routine, like if you were to give them a few tips as to things they could start to practice if they really wanted to start calling out things that they wanted, what would you advise as a takeaway?
Yeah. Okay. Let me give you, I think, 4. So, first, get clear on what you really want. If I'm unlimited and I can do anything I want, I can have the business of my dreams. What does that look like? And let me just imagine and write it all down and just get it all out, and really give yourself permission to dream without a filter. Because most people put this is realistic and that's not realistic, and I can only achieve that in 10 years or whatever.
Right.
Start with that. Then
whether they can see it or not.
yeah, whether they can, if it's a desire inside of them and it lights them up, and thinking about it excites you and it makes your energy bigger, and it just, fuels you. Even if it feels scary, even if you doubt it, if it's a desire, then I think that's important, because I believe our desires are, I call it's kind of like spiritual and a little different, but I think that our desires are planted in our heart by the divine. So they're there on purpose. We want them because they're meant for us. And if we didn't want them, we wouldn't go after them, but they connect to the impact that we can have in this world. And so it's so much bigger than us, right? Like if my dream is to have a house on the beaches of Maui, for example, how am I showing up in this world if I can afford a house on the beaches of Maui? Like, who am I serving? How much of a difference am I making? It's not just about me. It has nothing to do with that house, really. It's about the impact that I was born to have in this world, and how can I show up fully for that? So that mindset shift helped me.
I love that. Number 1.
Number 2, write out your new beliefs, I call them, because affirmations, like sometimes can just be like, for some people it can seem like bypassing or seem like you're just trying to positive everything up. But for me, it's looking at giving gratitude for what it is that you want as if it's already happened. Imagine, like for you, when you do your dancing, for example, you would imagine after the show is over and how you're feeling so great about yourself, and you're like, that went amazing. And me, like I think you've shared that with me before.
Yes.
So it's that same thing, but for your dreams and your goals.
Okay.
So imagining them, writing them out in the positive as if they've already happened, and as much as possible connecting to the feelings that are associated with the specific outcome. So, it's not just like I earn 30K months. It's every day my income is connected to the impact I have in the world. I change thousands of people's lives every day. I help thousands of people every day. That's the person who might earn a 30K, 100K, whatever income per month, right?
Okay.
And number 3, some type of visualization. So for me, I literally set a timer on my phone for 2 minutes every single morning.
Mhm.
And I visualized some part of my dream or goal that connected to the most emotion. So during the time, for example, that I was trying to manifest that trip with my grandmother, which happened for her 88th birthday, I, and yeah, it was amazing. I instead of visualizing, I have enough, the money for the ticket or this or that, I didn't visualize any of that. I visualized standing on the beach, holding her hand, feeling my feet in the sand, seeing our toes in the sand, feeling the softness of her hand. You know, that grandma type softness. I don't know if you know that
I
feeling of
don't
like an
know.
elderly person's hands are just so soft. I would imagine that. I would imagine the feeling of just gratitude for that time with her and the memories that, as she's getting older and she's 93 now, for example, like there's fewer and fewer of those memories that are ahead of us, right? So I would
Right.
visualize how much that meant to me. And just visualizing that some days would move me to tears. So that's what you're looking for, something that really evokes powerful emotion to you. It
Mm.
can't just be a financial goal. It's got to be something that connects to the why of that goal. What experience is that giving you? Maybe it's connected to how you help or how you give back, or maybe it's connected to an experience you have with a loved one or something
Yes.
meaningful. So that is number 3. And then number 4, I always did what I called my divine listening time or my soul listening time, which is putting
Yeah.
my to-do list aside
Okay.
and then asking, well, how am I meant to serve today? How am I meant to show up? And what am I meant to do? What are my priorities? Because in the world of online business, we all know there's 50 million things that people recommend that you do. You want this funnel and this many people on your email list, and you want to send out an email this often and make sure you post to social media this many times, or,
Mm.
use these hashtags. And yes, that's all great and it's helpful strategy. However, if it's not what is the best next step for you, it might not get you anywhere, even
Right.
though other people say it's important. So for my listening time, I would just tune in and be like, okay, what is most important for me to do today? And
Mhm.
really sit and feel into what that was. And wisdom would always come through because we are all connected to our innate wisdom, the guidance that comes from inside, from our souls, however you want to look at it or call it, right? We all have the capacity to be connected to that if we can quiet the noise of the world around us long enough. And that's why I always like to do it in the morning. People could do it at night, but just when they have a quiet space so that you can hear yourself above
Yeah.
any other noise that's out there. And sit with what comes to you. And more will come to you. I find as you listen so you might have this feeling like, I feel like I need to do this, but I don't know why. Like,
Right.
I feel like I need to reach out to that person for an interview, but I don't know why.
Right.
And then you trust yourself and you do that and you reach out to them and it connects to something you didn't anticipate or expect because you can't plan that,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
it's that the more you trust yourself and the more you take action on what it is that you sense or you feel, the more clearly that guidance comes in and the more the faster it comes into. And then I feel like it collapses the timeline of your manifestation a bit and it just helps you to move forward in a really aligned way. And so for me, that was always the priority action step. And then my to-do list came next.
Okay. Okay. I love it. That was a great list. Thank you for sharing that. So I do have one question about your list, and maybe you've already answered it. With all the distractions that are happening with social media, like kind of like you said, how does one really tune out and say, like, this is a message, this feels right, this feels instinctual, this feels gut, versus, you're just being driven this message. So you're looking at it and like, well, maybe am I supposed to lean towards this? I feel like you sometimes we confuse the message, or it's easy to confuse the message. So
Yeah.
how does one kind of filter and say, no, this is more noise related and it's not you calling in something, versus this is how it should feel when you're spending time, quiet time, and you're calling something in?
Yes, I love that question. Thank you. So that discernment, I think, comes with practicing it. But
Okay.
also for me, I would never go on social media before I've done what I needed to do to tune into
Ooh,
myself,
I like that too. Good.
right?
Use that one. Yes.
Because you can scroll, you can get, oh, somebody else is doing something and you think I should do something like that, or you can just get pulled in so many different directions. So for me, like phone completely off until I've taken the time to go inwards and tune in with myself. Um, that is number one. And then noticing how things feel in your body. So you can play around with it and just see. Um, think of something that you think you should do, and then think of something that you feel excited about or want to do. And notice how it feels in your body, and you'll start to know what your body's tells are. So for me, I
Mm,
can feel like a tightness in my chest if something's just a should and it's not really aligned, or I feel like a contraction sort of feeling. And if something is really aligned, I feel expansive. I might feel nervous, but I
mm,
feel overall expansiveness. Like I can breathe deeper, like my chest is open. Yeah, so just, and for me, that's part of how I tell. So for other people it might be something different, but just how do you feel in your body when you think of certain things? So start by just writing out the to-do list that you think is important to you, and then look at each item and feel your body, because our bodies, I think of as the messengers of our soul. Like they're part of how um, we are able to understand what it is that our soul wants. So, sometimes people will get, and this is how it links to my naturopathic work, people will get headaches and they don't know why they're getting headaches, but they notice the headache always seems to happen when they're around a certain person, or they notice that they always feel really exhausted after some particular type of job that they're doing,
right.
or you feel something in your body, you feel like an uncomfortableness in your tummy, or you feel a backache, or whatever it is, some physical sign. Your body's trying to say, hey, something's not aligned here. Hey, trying to get your attention. I want you to just look at this. And very often when people quit the job, speak up for themselves, whatever it is, they'll notice that that physical symptom starts to get better because their body was just trying to get their attention.
Okay.
So just noticing when you look at your to-do list, how do I feel with each item? Which ones feel the most expansive? Which ones increase versus decrease my energy is another great way.
Okay.
Um, and that can be helpful for people if something makes them feel more tired, or if something makes them feel more passionate, more energized, something like that.
Okay. All right. No, that's great. Thank you, Celeste. I like that. I like that what you said about it being expansive. Like I think about things that, you know, when I think about my list, there are things that I feel like I should do or I want to do. Maybe I put it as a want. And sometimes they don't expand me as much, but I feel like they're going to help me get to this end goal. And then there's other things that are on my list that, I take the time and think about. There's an excitement, there's this joy, there's a flow, there's it's a completely different feeling, right? But I still struggle and go back between the two. But the feeling when I take that time to self and think about it, they're very different feelings.
Yeah.
But in my head, I've told myself, well, this is going to allow me to get to where I want to get to, right? So thank you for sharing that. Celeste, as we are winding down here, any final words that you have for people, where they can find you, where they can work with you, where they can get in touch with you, and then any final words for the people that, are going to tune in and watch this today?
Thank you so much, Patrick. People can find me at radicalnourishment.ca and on Instagram at Celeste Frenette. And I have lots of free resources on my website. So if anybody's interested in that, I have all kinds of tips about building and expanding your business online, logistically, like building your list in a really aligned way, creating your first opt-in, like logistical sorts of things, but also some abundance affirmations and support around manifesting and things like that. So there's both sides of it. And I would just share with anybody today, if there is a dream on your heart and it's still there, pay attention to it, because it's wisdom. It is your soul trying to get your attention, and it's there on purpose. So never belittle your dreams. Treat them as precious as you would if a child came up to you and said, I really want to do this when I grow up. Like you would say, I believe in you. You can do it. It sounds silly, but it's important that we
So
treat ourselves
important.
and talk to ourselves with that kind of love.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you, Celeste. Thank you for being here today. You are wonderful, man. It's always great talking to you, connecting with you. And I always learn something. So I'm like, yeah, I get to have you on. I get to take a little bit of notes. But I do appreciate you carving out space to be here today. Celeste in the house with us, ladies and gentlemen. Next up in the spotlight. Appreciate you. You have a good evening, Celeste.
Thanks so much, Patrick. I
You're
appreciate
welcome. Take care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye.